Geoff's Wonderland.
Hello. Come in and make yourself comfortable because you have stumbled across, deliberately, accidentally or otherwise, the 48th episode of The Wonderland. I'm Geoff Healy, musician, singer-songwriter, comedian, amateur barista, fried chicken aficionado, full-time overthinker and lover of all good things. And The Wonderland is a trip through the mess I like to call my mind, and the ever-accumulating collection of thoughts therein, such as it is. So, normally, at this point in the program, we would begin with our usual regular segment, Theory Time. However, considering the nature of what I want to talk about right now, it seems a lot more fitting that we kick off today's proceedings with our other regular segment, the critically derided and hugely unpopular
Geoff's Thought of the Day.
I was thinking about something, I think it was the thought of the day. I think it was the thought of the day.
And welcome to Thought of the Day. Now, I want to start today's thought by suggesting that life, among other things, is made up of forgetting and remembering in equal measure. We're always being told to remember this or forget about that, while the fact is that most of us tend to forget the things we should remember and remember the things that we should forget. Fully aware of this, Barry and Maurice Gibb of the Bee Gees wrote and recorded a little country song back in 1969 called Don't Forget to Remember, shortly after Brother Robin temporarily quit the group in a huff. Now, no doubt, this song was a message to Robin along the lines of, don't forget you're a Bee Gee, and if you come back, we'll end up making loads of money in the 70s from a movie about disco. Of course, Robin did remember, rejoined the Bee Gees, and the brothers Gibb went on to make a gazillion dollars, wrote loads and loads of great songs, often sang by themselves in very high voices, possibly because they also wore some very tight trousers, and, well, there you go. The thing is, if somebody says to you, don't forget such and such, or remember such and such, or even forget such and such, you are still extremely likely to do the opposite, right? And so now, or at least since the release of that Bee Gees song, humanity as a whole has taken note of the wisdom of the Gibb brothers, to the extent that we now advise our friends to not forget to remember, or even to remember not to forget. And then, of course, there are those times when there's something on our minds which is just not doing us any good, like an unpleasant or hurtful recollection, perhaps a heartache, pining over lost love, for example. And in that case, of course, our friends might encourage us to forget about that thing, or if we're busy with something else at that particular time, they may well tell us not to forget later, when we have time. The big question, of course, is what if genuine amnesia kicks in? Would you forget what you were supposed to remember to forget, or would you have already forgotten it? But I think the even bigger question we need to ask ourselves now is, why the hell am I even talking about this? Sorry, I've forgotten.
I think it was the thought of the day.
Yes, that's it for today's slightly exhausting and possibly irritating thought of the day. And given that we could all probably use a nice lie down and chill session right now, we've conveniently arrived at the Song of the Day segment, which each week features a preview of one of my original songs, or alternatively, something from one of our Wonderland-approved artists. And that's what we're going to have today. This one is from The Mergers, a great band from Germany, and it's called Pie in the Sky.
You
Yes, that was the Mergers with Pie in the Sky, taken from their album With a Carrot and a Stick. That's the name of the album, by the way. I'm not trying to tell you that I took the song from the album using a vegetable and a piece of wood, just to be clear. That would have been bloody difficult. Anyway, look, you can find that song, along with all the rest of the Mergers music, on the streaming services, and all 3 of their albums to date are available on vinyl LP, if that's your bag. Now, I have a theory, okay? And my theory is that not only are control freaks exhausting to have to deal with in life, as we often do, but they're probably also more exhausted than just about anybody. And so I'd like to extrapolate this theory for you right now on the most appropriate forum that the Wonderland has to offer. Yes, that's right. It's theory time.
Yo, you can't know what you can't know. I'm gonna tell you what I think I know. And I know what I know. This is what I know. Theory time.
And welcome to Theory Time. Yes, I really do think that controlling everything in your life is not something that you really need to do, and neither is it even entirely possible at the end of the day. But as we all know, there are people out there who desperately want exactly that and will stop at almost nothing to get it, regardless of the cost. So here's an example. I recently had occasion to sell a few unwanted items on eBay. Now, this has been a pretty interesting experience because as a seller, you sometimes find yourself in a position where somebody will make you an offer for something that you're selling, but the offer will fall short of what you feel the item is worth. And so you'll make a counter offer, to which they can make a counter offer, and so on, to a certain extent. Now, given that eBay is very much about auctions and bids and offers, this is very much standard procedure. And I actually think it can be kind of fun, really. But on this particular occasion, after what I thought was a bit of good-natured haggling over the final price, it became clear that winning this rather expensive item would require this particular punter to accept my offer of €2 more than his previous offer, at which point he abruptly lost interest, and that was that. Now, this sort of thing has happened a couple of times, and so it does seem that there are people out there for whom being able to dictate the final price is far more important and satisfying than actually obtaining the desired item. These are the same people, I suspect, who generally want everything to be their idea. So quite often, these are also the same folks who won't delegate responsibility because they don't feel they can trust anybody else to do things properly. Now, it is true that we like to control things in our lives as far as possible, but it must be absolutely exhausting to be actually wired that way, as some people seem to be. Thing is, if you really are hell-bent on control, and then you get control, you then have to keep control. And that's the problem. It's like getting into a car and driving for a really long time, and at a certain point, you're going to get tired, right? So wouldn't it be nice to let somebody else drive for a change so you can take a nap? Anyway, look, the next time you feel the need to control something, ask yourself, is it really necessary? And try to remember how nice being a passenger of life can sometimes be. Unless, of course, you have to take a long car trip with a control freak, try to remember to check that your life insurance is paid up.
This is what I know. Theory time.
And that's it for Theory Time. And crikey, if that's not also the end of the show, I don't know what it is. Thanks for joining me once again, people. If you've enjoyed the show, please hit subscribe or follow if you haven't done so already. And if you'd like to drop me a line, you can do that by going to www.geoffhealy.com. In the meantime, keep yourselves nice, everyone. Have a fantastic weekend and a great week next week, and I'll be talking at you again next Friday on the next riveting episode of The Wonderland.
Gotta get back to Geoff's Wonderland. Geoff's Wonderland, Wonderland.